It's no secret that Iron Mike, the Iron Kid, stands as one of the most brutal and tough punchers in boxing history. While audiences created more and more hype around him, his knockout power continued to instill irrational fear in his opponents. Just the thought of standing in front of him made the entire heavyweight division tremble in fear at the peak of his career. But what almost no one talks about is that other fighter who was as respectable and feared in the honorable ring as the legendary Mike Tyson himself. This ruthless assassin of the art of fists had no conscience or sense of mercy for those who dared to stand before him in the ring. What was his name? You've probably heard it before. The great Canadian giant, Donovan Ruddock. Welcome. In today's video, I'll take you back to relive the fateful last clash between Donovan Ruddock and Mike Tyson. The rematch of two encounters that marked a before and after in both fighters' careers, and a contest where not even Mike Tyson himself felt secure in his victory. Get comfortable. This glimpse into the golden pages of boxing history begins here. Razor, as he was known for cutting through everything in his path, was born in St. Catherine Parish, Jamaica, but resided in Canada. By March 20th, 1982, Ruddock stepped into his first professional boxing ring at the Columbus Center in Toronto to face Wes Rowe and defeat him by technical knockout in the fourth of 6 scheduled rounds. From then on, the fighter's power was something to behold. It wasn't until '85 that a fighter managed to defeat him on technicalities, and he continued his good winning streak until he faced Mike Tyson for the first time on March 18th, 1991.
The punch. Left uppercut by Razor Ruddock. Associate Minister lets them know.
Both fighters were summoned to the ring of the Mirage Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, to face their destiny. Tyson came into the fight as the #1 heavyweight contender of the WBC, WBA, and IBF. But Ruddock was close behind, being the #2 heavyweight contender for the same organizations. What was supposed to be a heavyweight eliminator fight turned into a true massacre, where referee Richard Steele had to call for mercy 2 minutes into the 7th round. Although Ruddock tried to become the active aggressor in the fight during the first round, he was quickly intimidated by Iron Mike's offense. This drop in his attacks led him to be cannon fodder, suffering his first knockdown during the second round by a left hook while he was retreating. Ruddock immediately got up, but he seemed not even to understand how it had happened. By the third round, Tyson made sure to show him what had happened, sending him to the canvas for the second time with a much more dramatic fall. Ruddock got up at the count of 8 and continued the fight, but he had already lost. He bought time with clinches and weak counterattacks until the 7th round, when Tyson made his head dance from side to side with a lethal barrage of punches that caused the fight to be stopped and earned him the victory by technical knockout at 2 minutes and 22 seconds. This could have been the end of the encounter, but the story between these two fighters had just begun. A few months later, on June 28, 1991, Donovan Ruddock and Mike Tyson would meet again in the ring of the Mirage Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, to measure their strength. They were still maintaining their positions on the heavyweight contender list, and it was expected that the rematch could finally determine which of the two was truly the one to beat at that time. Dalby Shirley, Chuck Giampa, and Art Lurie were appointed as judges for the match. And this time, the third man in the ring was none other than Mills Lane. With the sound of the bell, the second round of a war that many had been waiting to see began. First round. Tyson leaped from his corner with the aggression that characterized him during that time. Quickly, sadistic combinations were directed at Ruddock's body. For his part, the Canadian giant acted cautiously and tried to stay out of Tyson's attack range. Tensions were high after that first encounter, so even after the closing bell of the round, the fighters continued exchanging blows with Mills Lane in between them.
And they continue after the bell.
Second round. Ruddock tried to keep Tyson at bay by extending his left hand, but he was unable to do so. Tyson was going for the head, and his audacity paid off. A powerful right hook, clean and well aimed, left the Canadian giant on the canvas.
Mills Lane.
Ruddock took Lane's count and continued the fight, but Mike had entered devil mode. Staying firm in his guard was the only option he had left.
He's in trouble again. Tyson showing no respect whatsoever for Ruddock. A low blow.
Third round. Tyson became the clear aggressor of the fight, spending the entire round stalking Ruddock like a predator to its prey. The Canadian giant tried his own attacks on Mike's body and head, but he quickly resorted to clinching again. Once again, he seemed unable to avoid being tamed.
Caught Tyson's attention, no question about that. And a hammering right hand put a punctuation.
Fourth round, Ruddock's left hand, once again, tried to keep Tyson at bay as he retreated to get as far away from him as possible. When Tyson caught up with him, the giant's burly body paid the consequences. Again, an unyielding right from Iron Mike left Ruddock lying on the canvas. Surviving Lane's count, the fight continued only for Tyson to knock out his mouthguard with his infamous offense, punishing him until the bell rang.
Hard shot. There goes Ruddock again. He's down for the second time.
Fifth, sixth, and seventh rounds. Those who thought the fight was close to ending were wrong. The fight continued its course, moving through the fifth, sixth, and seventh rounds. With Tyson as the main aggressor, Ruddock occasionally delivered good uppercuts and combinations to the body that kept him in the fight. Probably Tyson didn't expect the Canadian giant to pass the 7-round mark, as happened in their first encounter.
Part is not finished. They continue.
Eighth round. The tension between the fighters had already been building. Suggestions of punches after the closing bell of previous rounds had been seen, but nothing like what happened at the end of the 8th round. After Tyson successfully tamed him up to that point in the fight, Ruddock couldn't contain his frustration. Therefore, after the bell, the Canadian giant let his right hand go, with every intention of inflicting damage on Mike.
That last round proved that Mike can be hit.
This cost him a point deduction on the judges' scorecards. 9th and 10th rounds, Tyson was not exempt from this punishment. During the 9th and 10th rounds, he had 2 points deducted, 1 in each round, for low blows. Probably these attacks were part of his strategy to provoke Ruddock and initiate close exchanges of punches after the giant had been escaping them for quite some time.
He's certainly going to make Holyfield overconfident.
11th round. With the judge's decision just around the corner and 2 points deducted from his scorecards, Tyson didn't come out to play during the 11th round. Although Ruddock had proven to be a tough nut to crack, he never managed to take control of the pace of the fight from Mike. The Razor, instead of cutting through everything in his path, was retreating or clinching at crucial moments. This allowed Iron Mike to show himself as aggressive and determined.
Take any more points, for fear of affecting a heavyweight championship, a heavyweight fight.
12th round, Ruddock was exhausted for the final round, so now more than ever, he fought to stay on his feet, not to win. He kept his distance as much as possible and shamelessly bet on clinching to avoid being severely injured. Tyson kept advancing until the end.
Bet this was going to go the distance. Not many. Certainly not me.
Judge's decision. When the announcer took the center of the ring, uncertainty filled the venue. Although Tyson had knocked Ruddock down twice and had been the aggressor throughout the fight, the 2-point deduction could work against him. In Ruddock's corner, only a miracle could be expected. By unanimous jury decision, the verdict in the rematch against one of the giants who gave him the most trouble favored Tyson. Once again, Iron Mike proved his supremacy over Donovan Ruddock. In his early days, Iron Mike's 5'10" height wasn't enough, costing him the confidence of the U.S. Olympic team. Instead of crumbling after losing the dream of his life, Tyson worked hard enough to turn what others saw as a weakness into one of his greatest weapons. Welcome. In today's video, we'll relive battles where Tyson faced true giants of the ring and emerged victorious. Spoiler alert, he seriously injured one of them outside the ring. Want to know who? Keep watching until the end. Mike Tyson versus Jesse Ferguson. On February 16, 1986, Mike Tyson stepped into the ring to face Jesse Ferguson. The 6'2" giant boasted a professional record of 14 wins, 10 by knockout, and 1 loss. In the other corner, Tyson's undefeated record of 17 knockout victories tipped the scales in his favor. With Luis Rivera as the third man in the ring that night, the fighters took to the center of the ring at the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York. Tyson landed solid body hooks and snapped Ferguson's head back with a pair of uppercuts.
A couple of those punches appeared low.
Jesse Ferguson go into the corner and onto the ropes, and then counter with left hooks off the ropes. Very much to Tyson's liking.
Starting out, going to the body, have some of Tyson's 12 first-round knockout victims, but now
Ferguson spent much of the first half of the opening round with his back against the ropes. Bravely, he tried to block Tyson's punches and managed to land a few of his own in the last minute.
Always in position to punch.
we'll be back.
Tyson continued to punish the Giant with body shots in the second round. Much of the third round was a close quarters battle, with Tyson outpunching Ferguson, who seemed to have grown accustomed to being cornered against the ropes.
Got to drain something out of him. He is not breathing heavily. He looks in pretty good shape at this point.
You mentioned, of course, the relation.
In the fourth round, clinches started to dominate the fight as Ferguson complained that Tyson was hitting too low.
During this fight, his problem.
At the start of the fifth round, Ferguson threw a jab, trying to stay close enough to smother Tyson's power. Stepping back, Tyson was able to find his way to victory again by working diligently with body shots. A savage combination of a right hook to the body and a right uppercut broke Ferguson's nose, sending him heavily to the canvas on his back.
Was in trouble in both the first and 10th rounds, and now he's in trouble here. Blood coming up.
Ferguson got up at the count of 8, but this was just the beginning of his end. For the rest of the round, Tyson punished him for daring to rise, with referee Luis Rivera closely following the action.
Almost stopped it there. Mike Tyson's known as a great finisher. Let's see how he does with Ferguson.
Ferguson gamely hanging in.
In the sixth round, Ferguson, completely intimidated by Tyson's power, started engaging in desperate clinches. Over a minute in, the Giant received a warning for this. Just a few seconds later, Ferguson grabbed both of Tyson's gloves and refused to let the referee separate them. At that point, Luis Rivera had no choice but to wave an arm over his head, signaling a disqualification of the Giant for refusing to separate from Tyson once again when ordered. This was the first fight in which Mike Tyson lasted more than 5 rounds in the ring. Shortly after, the commission changed the result from disqualification to victory by technical knockout. Mike Tyson versus James Tillis. On May 3, 1986, Mike Tyson stepped into the ring at the Civic Center in Glen Falls, New York, to face James Tillis. The 6'1" Giant boasted a professional record of 31 wins, 24 of them by knockout and 8 losses. Despite his lesser track record, once again, Tyson's 19 undefeated knockout victories seemed to tip the scales in his favor. With Joe Cortez as the third man in the ring, both fighters jumped into the bout, determined to go all the way to secure victory. At the start of the first round, Tyson landed solid right hands. While Tillis moved well, working behind a jab that connected fairly well, Tyson managed to land a powerful right hook in the final seconds.
The only one of the 3 judges in Las Vegas a few weeks ago who scored the Larry.
Win a decision in this fight, Jim. He has to try to take the fighters because Tyson's hands were not tied up.
In the second round, Tyson followed his corner's advice and threw a jab while closing the distance, landing a good right hand that stopped Tillis cold 53 seconds into the opening bell. Tillis fought back, landing a solid left hook in the first half of the round and a good left uppercut in the final minute.
In the Olympic trials,
Tillis knocked down 2 of them. Tillis out with it, but he will wear him down and bring his hands.
The hardest punches of the third round were landed by Tyson, who caught Tillis with a combination, receiving in return flurries from a Giant he had already tamed, to the point of leaving him against the ropes.
He's trying to learn how to box with James Quick Tillis. He's going to have to be able to handle a Quick Tillis to get to the top of the even. He is right now.
In the first minute of the fourth round, Tillis seemed to recover by landing well with his left hand. But counterattacking, when Tillis came at him in the final seconds of the round, Tyson caught him with a left hook that quickly knocked him down, sending him to the canvas.
Before he got punched, again he lunges in and gets caught.
The left hand.
Tillis got up at the count of 3 and didn't seem hurt. However, this knockdown cost him what had been his best round of the fight so far. Tillis came out in the 5th round with more aggression, landing punches to the head of a Tyson who struggled to keep up with the giant. Still, Tyson activated his finish mode in the final minute of the round, unleashing sadistic body shots that seemed to hurt the giant just before landing a violent barrage to the upper body.
We talked about the right to the body and the right uppercut, but he didn't land it. Isolated punches go. A single indicates that Quick Tillis was hurt by those 2 body punches.
Tillis moved well, appearing to work his way to victory from the outside during the 6th round. But once again, Tyson closed the round looking strong, landing tenacious body shots. Tillis dominated much of the 7th round before Tyson stepped in late and opened a cut over Tillis's left eye with a bloody right hand.
Tyson. And the uppercut. Tillis grabs him behind the head. Tillis landed a left. Didn't seem to faze Tyson.
After this high point in the fight, neither fighter managed to land a significant blow in the 8th round. In the 9th round, Tillis continued to outbox Tyson. Moving well, the giant managed to connect from the outside, while Tyson's attacks decreased in volume. The 10th round didn't look good for Tyson as Tillis managed to control him, but Tyson went into beast mode in the 2nd minute of the round, creating a brutal exchange of punches that continued even after the closing bell. When the announcer took the center of the ring, after minutes of uncertainty, Mike Tyson was declared the winner by unanimous decision in the 10th round. This was the first time a fighter had taken Tyson to the end of a professional fight, a milestone that should be recognized and honored for James Tillis. Mike Tyson versus Mitch Green. Just 17 days after his victory over James Tillis on May 20th, 1986, Mike Tyson stepped into the ring at the legendary Madison Square Garden in New York to face Mitch Green. The 6'5" giant boasted a professional record of 16 wins, 10 by knockout, 1 loss, and 1 draw. At that time, Tyson's professional record remained undefeated with 20 wins, 19 of them by knockout. With Luis Rivera as the 3rd man in the ring, the fighters jumped into battle. Throughout the fight, Tyson was successful in pressuring Green. Before beating him by unanimous decision, Tyson made sure to leave him with a psychological scar that traveled through powerful punches aimed at Green's head and body. Tyson's fury led him to knock Green's mouthguard out 3 times while shaking him with short, devastating punches to the head and body.
When he throws his punches. And he did draw a warning from Luis Rivera, the referee, about holding. Green's in trouble.
Those shots to the body is doing his tick.
Now here we see White.
Even so, Green's bravery, or stubbornness, didn't allow him to quit. Green appeared confident as he counterattacked on several occasions with powerful flurries. But as the rounds progressed, it seemed that the exciting moments of the fight only continued to diminish. During the final rounds, the crowd of 6,069 joined in boos directed at the fighters, and it was understandable. In retrospect, Tyson never truly endangered Green, and Green seemed determined to fight for survival, not to win. After 10 rounds, Tyson was declared the winner by unanimous decision. However, his true victory would take place on the streets. In the early hours of August 23, 1988, Mike Tyson and Mitch Green faced each other once again. Tyson stopped by Dapper Dan's, a Harlem clothing store, to pick up a custom-made jacket when Green, who was in the area, ambushed him. The heated argument led Green to throw a punch, to which Tyson responded with one of his infamous straight rights that landed on the bridge of Green's nose. The audacity of confronting Iron Mike outside the ring cost Green a wound that required several stitches, but Tyson didn't come out unscathed. Due to the brutality of the punch, Tyson fractured his hand, forcing him to postpone his first scheduled fight with Frank Bruno. During the 1990s, there was no other fighter of Mike Tyson's caliber. This brave man in the ring had earned his prestige after proving himself to be a lethal, knockout machine at the end of the previous decade.
Tyson and Ruddock stumbled, but he stayed up.
As a result, challengers kept lining up to fight him, hoping to defeat a living legend. However, the audience attended these matches under the illusion of seeing the mighty Mike Tyson mercilessly destroy his opponents.
There's a left by Ruddock, a left by Tyson, and down goes Ruddock.
Welcome. In today's video, we'll relive one of the most brutal fights in Iron Mike's career. I advise discretion. The images you are about to see may disturb you a bit. With that warning in place, let's get started. It was early 1991, and the idol Mike Tyson had a new name on his list of victims: Donovan Ruddock. Ruddock was a Canadian giant, almost 2 meters tall, who intimidated anyone with his mere presence. Anyone except Mike Tyson. The native of Weston, Ontario, debuted in professional boxing on March 20th, 1982, fighting only a few battles, remaining undefeated until April 1985. In the following years, the fighter applied the quality, not quantity rule to fight only a few matches, accumulating an undeniably impressive winning streak. This same streak qualified him in 1991 to face one of his greatest challenges yet, the Beast, Iron Mike. Known as Razor for cutting through everything in his path, Ruddock accepted the opportunity of a lifetime without hesitation. Ruddock entered the fight as the number 2 heavyweight contender for the World Boxing Council, the World Boxing Association, and the International Boxing Federation. A great achievement, but one that pales when we look at the number 1 heavyweight contender spot in those same organizations, occupied by none other than Mike Tyson. The fight was scheduled for March 18th as a heavyweight eliminator. The winner would undoubtedly become the man to beat in that weight class. Jerry Roth, Chuck Giampa, and Dave Moretti were appointed as judges for the bout, but their views wouldn't be needed. In the ring of the Mirage Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, the third man would be the legendary Richard Steele. First round, Tyson jumped from his corner with the aggression that characterized him in that era. Measuring Ruddock with his left, he sought to unleash his right on him immediately. For his part, the Canadian giant also tried to subdue Tyson with his own attacks. The clash of both forces led to the first clinches, which lasted throughout the round. It wasn't the first time Tyson had faced a giant, and he knew he had to attack the body to weaken him before going for his head. However, Ruddock was making the job as difficult as possible. With so many clinches, it was hard to land precise attacks. Second round. As soon as the opening bell of the second round was heard, Tyson jumped on Ruddock. It seemed that the Canadian giant wanted to avoid a close exchange of blows, as he kept retreating in an attempt to stay away from Mike. When you fight with cowardice, only the worst can happen to you. Within seconds of starting, Ruddock was down on the canvas. Although Tyson's punch hadn't been decisive, the giant's retreat caused him to lose his balance. Ruddock was on his feet even before Steele began the safety count, showing great confusion and disbelief at what had just happened. After the mandatory 8 count, the fight resumed. Mike Tyson was the clear aggressor, and Ruddock relied on clinching to try to quell his offense. Tyson could only land 2 punches before Ruddock's arm sought to grab any part of his body. Occasionally, the Canadian giant would throw 1 or 2 punches just to remind the audience that he was still in the fight. After this first knockdown, it became evident that Ruddock's fighting spirit had left his body. Third round. Trying to repeat the previous round's start, Tyson jumped on a retreating Ruddock once again. Tyson had to be creative and try to land blows even in the clinches. Suddenly, Ruddock started using his left hand only to try to keep Tyson at bay. The Canadian giant wasn't attacking, and this defensive posture would bring a second major consequence. Tyson continued to attack the body during the clinches until Ruddock was down again. With 20 seconds left in the round, Ruddock got involved in an attack that wouldn't seriously hurt Tyson, but would open up his guard. Less than 5 seconds before he was saved by the bell, a powerful left hook caused the giant to lose his balance once more and fall back violently to the canvas. When he got up, Ruddock's expression was pure gold. It was a mix of astonishment and disbelief. He looked around as if thinking, "Did this really happen again?" While Steele gave him the safety count for the second time in 3 rounds. He was on his feet by the count of 8 and was finally saved by the bell. Ruddock needed to use this break between rounds to rethink his strategy if he didn't want the third time to be the charm. 4th round, Tyson, staying true to his style, attacked Ruddock as soon as the bell rang. But Ruddock didn't hesitate for a second to cling to his body. The Canadian giant used his left hand to try to keep at a distance the man who had already become his executioner. But Mike had a special talent for breaking through his guard and continuing to hurt him with sadistic body shots. After a minute of repetitive movements, it became evident that Ruddock was just buying time. Retreat, clinch, and repeat was the plan. Even after 4 rounds, Donovan Ruddock had no idea how to face a rival of Iron Mike's caliber, and he was paying the price for it.
Tyson looking for that hook. He can't leap in there with disregard. This guy can punch.
5th round, Tyson's right hand continued to explode against Ruddock's jaw at the start of the 5th round. The Canadian giant's posture momentarily transformed. He was attacking again, although his attacks weren't the most effective. As a result, he soon reverted to what had helped him survive the previous round without hitting the canvas: clinching. Tyson's offense only grew stronger as Ruddock failed to counter it. Probably the only thing keeping him on his feet was his good physical condition and aptitude for the sport. Still, after the closing bell, he looked exhausted and reluctant to continue fighting. 6th round. "I'm not having fun tonight," would be the Lady Gaga quote that Ruddock would surely frame the fight with. The Canadian giant had lost all sense of fighting since that devastating second knockdown. During the 6th round, he shamelessly fled backward or sideways whenever Tyson tried to approach him. If they were facing each other, he would only extend his left hand to try to keep his distance. When he couldn't, he resorted to clinching, as he had done so many times before. With Tyson controlling the pace of the fight, having subdued another giant, the question remained of how much more time Donovan Ruddock could buy.
This is a heavyweight elimination bout scheduled for 12.
With the exchange of blows during the last minute of the round, the answer was just around the corner. 7th round, Tyson was tired of playing and went for the giant's head from the first second. Ruddock didn't want to allow him to attack, betting on his classic clinching. But when he dared to throw a combination, opening his guard, Tyson came in with the heavy artillery. A right hook left Ruddock staggering, but he was still on his feet. Against the ropes, a left uppercut began the final punishment. Left, right, and Ruddock's head couldn't stop moving from side to side, making his whole body dance. After this grim scene, Richard Steele raised his arms and ended the fight. Ruddock seemed not even to have realized what had happened just a few seconds ago, but this outcome was inevitable. Mike Tyson had beaten him by technical knockout at 2 minutes and 22 seconds of the 7th round.
Tyson was stunned by the power of this monster. Mike Tyson was one of the toughest and most brutal fighters in the history of boxing. His knockouts were capable of causing irrational fear in his opponents while generating great excitement among audiences. At the peak of his career, he had the entire heavyweight division trembling at just the thought of standing in front of him in the honorable boxing ring. But what very few know is that there was an opponent who was as respected and feared as Iron Mike himself. He was a ruthless killer in the art of boxing who had no conscience or mercy for his adversaries. His name? Donovan Ruddock. Welcome. In today's video, I invite you to join me on a journey into the past and witness the great night in the golden history of boxing where Mike Tyson faced off against a Donovan Ruddock who made him doubt his performance for the first time in a long while. It's not just any fight. It's a true battle of titans that every discipline lover should know about. Get comfortable because this journey into the past begins here. The year was 1991 when on March 18th, Mike Tyson stepped into the ring at the Mirage Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, to face his destiny and fight to be the last man standing against Donovan Ruddock. Tyson entered the fight as the #1 heavyweight contender by the World Boxing Council, the World Boxing Association, and the International Boxing Federation. But Ruddock wasn't far behind. These prestigious organizations categorized him as the #2 heavyweight contender. Representing Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Ruddock's professional record stood at 25 victories, 18 of them by knockout, having been defeated only once before and adding a controversial draw. Intimidating, you might think. However, Tyson's 39 victories, 35 of them by knockout, and only one previous defeat still made him, at least statistically, the great rival to beat. Ruddock entered the ring with great confidence. He even bought into the story of being the only fighter on earth capable of defeating Tyson during his prime years. Under this premise, and with Richard Steele accompanying them inside the ring, both fighters went into battle. Tyson's left broke the ice, and his offense quickly became aggressive. Ruddock tried to sneak in some combinations through his guard, but without much success. Early in the fight, clinches began as a sign of inability to face with fists what fate had put in front of Ruddock.
He's ready for it. He threw his bomb. Oh, all right. Frank, the button. Another solid right. Oh, that would... It's done something. It stopped Iron Mike. Oh, what a right hand by...
Against a Mike Tyson landing hard punches left and right, Ruddock's aggressiveness seemed to take a while to make itself felt. A blow after the closing bell of the round would escalate the conflict's rivalry even further.
For the bell. Tyson hitting afterwards. And the bad foot.
Now it would be Tyson's right that would open the second episode. And after a couple of seconds and just a couple more punches, Ruddock would test how comfortable the canvas was as he fell sitting down heavily upon it. The Canadian Titan got up immediately, but it was a clear knockdown due to the powerful left blow he received before his fall. Steele began the safety count, while Ruddock paced around, agitated. Not even he could believe what had happened. After the standard count of 8, the fight resumed. Tyson knew what he was doing by provoking his opponent. In the first clinch, he landed a straight right to the chin. Confident in his abilities, he wanted to generate close-range exchanges to further open his window of opportunity for a knockout. But against a Ruddock who seemed calm between caution and clinches, Iron Mike would have to wait a little longer for his great chance to fully arrive.
In the opening round. Now he's measuring Ruddock out and seems to be more...
Ruddock tried to create some distance between him and Tyson by stretching out his left, but to no avail. If he was the predator, Tyson was the prey waiting behind the sights of his rifle ready to execute the perfect shot. However, to avoid getting bored, he accurately fired his fists at his target with the intention of causing harm. Clinches were becoming more frequent, but Mike found a way to sneak in a couple of his punches to continue weakening his opponent. At this point in the contest, it was clear who was in control of the fight's rhythm. For every step Tyson took forward, Ruddock took 2 back.
He's just leaning on Tyson. Oh, right by Tyson.
During the last 20 seconds of the round, the Canadian Titan finally stood firm against his opponent and tried to exchange some punches. Unfortunately, this only led to his second knockdown. Tyson's powerful left would be the star once again as it executed a brutal hook that left Ruddock lying flat on his back.
He just doesn't quite get there. There's a left by Ruddock. A left by Tyson, and down goes Ruddock.
Getting up immediately, and with the greatest of surprises imprinted on his face, Steele granted him the safety count. Fortunately, when the fight resumed, he was saved by the bell. Mike knew he had to continue the path that had brought him to the 4th round with 2 knockdowns in his favor. Ruddock, however, knew he had to stay as far away as possible from his opponent if he wanted to avoid finding out if the 3rd time was the charm.
Sockless, Mike Tyson having a...
Fearful of starting another close exchange, Ruddock retreated as much as he could and clung to Iron Mike's body to reduce his chances of attack. frustrating the offense of the one who had dominated him perfectly until then. The question that remained was how much longer his cowardly strategy could buy him.
That body shot sounded like he hit a drum. Again, the crowd groans. Relentless attack.
Immediately after the opening bell, Ruddock retreated until he collided with the ropes. He tried to neutralize Tyson's offense with weak combinations, but his right was unable to cause significant damage, and his left couldn't keep his hunter away for long. Every blow Tyson landed on him caused havoc. He knew he had to work from the art of weakening his opponent if he wanted a moderately early victory. Even in his tragic situation, Ruddock wanted to show off by placing his left fist on Tyson's forehead, an act of provocation that disrespected his opponent, and in the noble art of boxing tends to be paid very dearly.
He can question his integrity or his honesty.
A flurry. Tyson with another right. He was looking for his third straight. Oh, look at We are now.
With the countdown in his favor, the weak Canadian Titan was saved by the bell once again. As soon as the bell rang, Tyson charged at Ruddock like a locomotive without brakes until he made him impact against the ropes. The provocations had their effect, and now Mike's offense was just a little more tenacious. Ruddock continued trying to neutralize him, but he missed more punches than he landed. When Mike stood in front of him, it created a truly terrifying scenario. At this point, everyone began counting the seconds until the fall of the Canadian Rooster. It was a fight scheduled for 12 rounds, but the end was just around the corner.
Sit ringside, up close. Tyson, now Tyson says no, hit me again, and he did with the right.
Ruddock tried to slow down the inevitable with his clinches on Tyson's body, but his cowardly strategy would no longer succeed. By the time he tried to start an exchange, Mike delivered the blow that would mean the point of no return. Entering the last minute of the round, Tyson pinned Ruddock against the ropes and became the executioner who would initiate one of the worst massacres of his professional career. An intrepid flurry of blows made Ruddock's head sway from left to right, giving the impression that it would be detached from his neck.
Tyson has Ruddock on the rope. Now the right.
With his fists down, Steele quickly realized that he was a fighter no longer fit to fight. Ironically, after regaining consciousness, Ruddock seemed surprised and displeased by Steele's decision. Little did he know that he had been saved from being decapitated. Just over 3 months later, Tyson and Ruddock collided once again in the ring at the Mirage Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. Do you wonder what the outcome of this second encounter was? That, my friend, belongs to another chapter in the golden history of boxing. I can only spoil you with the following. These boxing titans never disappoint. Mike Tyson, the man who had all his contemporaries trembling just by hearing his name, was threatened more than once before stepping into the ring. These are carried by his fists. One of them is Donovan Ruddock, the Canadian giant who was on his way to greatness, but Tyson brought him back down to earth. On a couple of occasions. Welcome. Make yourself comfortable. A new clash of titans is about to begin. It was 1991 when Mike Tyson and Donovan Ruddock answered the call of a finicky fate to test their strength in the honorable boxing ring. The agreed date was March 18th, and unbeknownst to them, both would star in a tenacious chapter in the golden history of pugilism that would begin that day and close months later. In the ring at the Mirage Hotel and Casino, Richard Steele awaited them to join as the third man in the ring. Tyson entered the fight as the #1 heavyweight contender for the World Boxing Council, the World Boxing Association, and the International Boxing Federation. Ruddock, the Canadian giant, entered as the #2 contender for the same prestigious organizations. It was a heavyweight eliminator fight that would determine which of these two fighters would be the most lethal of the moment, and it did not disappoint any attendee. First round. Tyson jumped from his corner with his characteristic aggressiveness, sizing up Ruddock with his left and seeking the first blow with his right. Almost immediately, Mike's ferocity on the offensive drove Ruddock into the ropes. Shortly after, in the middle of an attack, a misstep almost sent the Canadian giant to the canvas.
Well, he's ready for it. He threw his bomb. Oh, right. Frank Tyson.
This series of events, in a short time, made Tyson completely take control of the fight's pace. Throughout the round, Ruddock attempted various attacks against Tyson, but Iron Mike's guard was as solid as a concrete wall.
Steele and associate minister lets them know.
Ruddock began to put some distance between him and Mike by stretching his left and trying to reduce his attacks by opting for clinches. But every so often, Tyson landed a good punch that reminded everyone present why he was the true knockout machine.
Save the care. A harsh body punch by Tyson. That's the real Tyson right there.
The tension rose even more when, after the bell rang to end the round, the fighters did not stop.
Tyson hitting afterwards. And the bad foot.
With Steele separating them and their respective corners entering the ring, what was around the corner was an unprecedented event that no one could anticipate. Second round. When Ruddock came out of his corner, Tyson was already waiting for him like a predator for its prey. As soon as the bell rang, he pounced on him and neutralized any initiative by the Canadian giant to seek the first blow. Shortly after, with a powerful left hook, Mike sent Ruddock to the canvas. Not even he himself could believe what had just happened. But there was no mystery. He had been a victim of the power of a living legend, Iron Mike. Donovan got up immediately and returned to the fight only to continue being subdued by Mike. His attempts to level the balance were futile. His attacks were weak. Therefore, clinching remained his best friend in the ring. His struggle to put some distance between him and Tyson became more evident, who occasionally continued to land big blows.
Because the hurricane is building up. There's a one punch when he should be punching.
Alternating between sadistic combinations to the body and head, Mike left no doubt as to why he was the #1 heavyweight contender. Third round. Ruddock started by putting some distance between him and Tyson, stretching his left, but it didn't take long for him to be hit by the force of Mike's left. Tyson, who pushed him back until he hit the ropes, had a clear strategy and it was working. In contrast, it seemed that the Canadian giant didn't know how to engage his opponent. Even in the middle of the clinches Ruddock generated, Tyson delivered accurate body shots that shook his opponent's fighting spirit. His left hand was starring in the match, so it was only a matter of time before the unimaginable happened. Once again, during the last 20 seconds of the round, Ruddock opened his guard while attempting to attack Tyson with sloppy combinations. This sudden change in his stance gave Tyson the opportunity to score another knockdown. With less than 5 seconds remaining, Tyson's lethal left executed a second hook that made the Canadian giant wobble, ending up hitting the canvas on his back.
He just doesn't quite get there. There's a left by Ruddock. A left by Tyson, and down goes Ruddock.
Upon getting back up, the expression on his face was pure gold, a mix of naivety and fear. The beast that vowed to kill Mike Tyson was being tamed, and in the cruelest way possible. When the fight resumed, time played in his favor, and the sound of the bell gave him the breath to live another round. Fourth round. After the close of the previous episode, Ruddock did not want to risk a single inch of himself. His left continued trying to mark distance from Tyson, retreating when he advanced until there was nothing but the ropes behind. When he got too close, the Canadian giant created a clinch to buy some time and reduce Mike's freedom to attack him. Occasionally, he threw a punch or two that seemed to go nowhere.
As far as his feet go, not as far. It seems as if Tyson catches breath, looking for a second win here. He's forward. Tyson looking for that. That body shot sounded like he hit a drum. Again, the crowd groans. Relentless attack by Tyson.
He only managed to land one last punch when the bell rang to end the round, and Tyson responded by ceasing fire. Fifth round. The Predator was starting to get tired of playing with his prey, and it was evident. Reducing the number of attacks, you could see how Mike closely followed Ruddock with his gaze to find the weak point where to slip his lethal fists. For the moment, it was his chest, his liver area, or his head.
This one was a good shot by Ruddock.
Tyson did a good job demonstrating a great ability to attack various targets at once. Meanwhile, the Canadian Giant's body was being tested. It was about seeing how many deadly punches from Iron Mike he could absorb without collapsing. Once again,
The question is integrity or his honesty.
Sixth round. Ruddock backed into the ropes as soon as the round started. Tyson had tamed him, and he wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. Failing most of his attempts to attack, the Canadian Giant was subjected to receiving punches 10 times more powerful on any valid corner of his body. At this point, the question was how much longer Donovan Ruddock would be able to withstand Mike Tyson in the ring. And the answer was just around the corner.
Continues to stay on his feet. He's been knocked down twice. He's getting chopped down little by little. Whoa, nice right hand.
Seventh round. With Tyson dominating the first half of the 7th episode, for some reason Ruddock thought it would be a good idea to lower his guard to counterattack. In the center of the ring, this sudden change in posture gave Tyson the opportunity to unleash heavy artillery. With a couple of body shots, he guided the Canadian Giant into his deadly trap, the ropes. Once there, the target was clear. He was going for the head. Steele tried to give Ruddock the chance to defend himself, putting some distance between them. But there was nothing to be done. Mike executed one last combination of punches that left Ruddock's head dancing on his body, unable to resist.
Coming back. Now Tyson with a big left. Pretty good chin. Yeah, but Ruddock.
All that could be seen was left-right until Steele had the mercy Tyson wouldn't show and stopped the fight. With this, Mike Tyson was declared the winner by technical knockout at 2 minutes and 22 seconds of the 7th round. Since its beginnings, Mike Tyson was marked by his stature. Distrusting him, the national team for the Olympics preferred another fighter simply because his measurements seemed more imposing than Tyson's. But young Mike Tyson worked on what others saw as his great weakness to turn it into a huge advantage against the giants of the ring who often labeled him as a small threat. Barely debuting in professional boxing, Mike Tyson proved that his short stature didn't make him any less lethal. Working the bodies of his larger rivals with sadistic blows until they were completely weakened, the power in Iron Mike's fists was able to knock out even those opponents against whom there was little faith. Welcome. In today's video, I bring you 2 confrontations where Mike Tyson proved his worth against boxing giants who fell short when it came to facing a fighter who fits the phrase small but dangerous. I hope you're comfortable because our new journey through the archives of the discipline is about to begin. Mike Tyson versus Tony Tucker. It was 1987 and only 2 years had passed since young Mike Tyson successfully completed his transition to professional boxing. Big names were already adding to his list of vanquished opponents, and the record of the youngest heavyweight champion in history was already resting on his shoulders. With a professional record of 30 victories, achieving 27 of them by the painful path of knockout without having been defeated, it seemed that there was no fighter on the face of the earth who could beat him until Tony Tucker appeared on the scene. Tucker's professional debut took place in '80, which was presumed to give him more experience than Tyson at the time. However, his professional record was very similar. With 34 victories, achieving 29 of them by knockout and without having been defeated, the sports press sold Tucker as the only fighter capable of ending Mike Tyson's undefeated streak. But failing that, he felt the pressure that the Beast Iron Mike would do the same to him. Thus, on August 1st, they arrived at the ring of the Hilton Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. Tucker had to make his first defense of the World Heavyweight title of the International Boxing Federation, while Tyson had to defend the World Heavyweight title of the World Boxing Association for the 2nd time and the World Heavyweight title of the World Boxing Council for the 3rd time. This fight was the final of the HBO Heavyweight Unification Tournament. Originally, the bout was scheduled for 15 rounds but was reduced to 12 after the 3 governing bodies met and approved the change shortly before the match took place. There was a crowd of over 7,140 people in attendance when Tyson entered the ring as the favorite in the 11-to-1 odds. But getting there had been the easy part. Now, Tyson had to make sure to come down as the unified champion. Once in the ring, a classic Tyson performance was not witnessed. Repeatedly, the renowned knockout machine had trouble connecting more than one punch at a time. This was because, while he was stalking, Tony Tucker fought a battle of survival.
Good right hand by Tucker. That might have been the best shot that Mike Tyson has ever taken, right there. There was a left hand by Tyson.
During the early rounds, Tucker succeeded in shaking Tyson's head with strong right punches and straight rights.
I harken back to your fight with Marvin Hagler, where after the first, Tyson, 2 good jabs. That was a good example. That uppercut catching Tyson on the way in. He's finished with the left hook, Barry. There was a good right hand again by Tucker. In close.
However, after the 4th episode, the worst thing you can do if you're in the ring against a beast like Iron Mike happened, losing your attacking strength. From the 4th round, Tucker's performance became linear after starting to fight not to win but to surpass the 12-round mark. Tucker's strategy was clear: keep the distance, dodge the explosive charges that were thrown at him in Tyson's fists, and hold on to the one who sought to dominate him to reduce his chances, thus gaining all the time in the world. He often went for Tyson's head as he advanced towards him to neutralize his winning impetus. But the 21-year-old knockout machine was more than oiled and ready to go all the way. During the last 2/3 of the fight, Tyson landed the big blows experienced in the ring.
Get him out of there. I think Tucker, on the other hand, is fighting superb. And there was a big right hand. Tucker's in the pad. And the reason for that is because those are the antics there. Sometimes work.
For the last round, it seemed like Tucker was coming back to life after landing a strong left hook to Tyson's head.
There was a big left hand and a flourish.
But it was already too late to add himself to the victory on the judges' card. The 3 judges voted for Mike. Phil Newman scored 119 to 111. Julio Roldan scored 118 to 113. Bill Graham scored 116 to 112. Although there were no knockdowns during the contest because Tucker used the type of tactics that had already frustrated Tyson's offense before, this victory by unanimous decision once again proved that the true giant in the fighting ring was him. Mike Tyson versus Frank Bruno. And because 2 fights will always be better than 1, here's a quick summary of the confrontation between Mike Tyson and Frank Bruno. Jumping to 89, we come across another of the greatest challenges in Mike Tyson's career. With 2 more years of experience, destiny led him to face Bruno on February 25th on the same ring at the Hilton Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. Bruno had debuted in professional boxing in '82, but his record was not exactly the most ostentatious. Out of 32 victories, 31 of them had been collected by knockout. Impressive if you ignore his 2 previous losses. Tyson was immersed in a conflicting personal situation, but that didn't seem to prevent him from continuing to function as a knockout machine in the ring. Out of his 35 victories, 31 of them had been claimed by the painful path of knockout. Unlike Bruno, he remained undefeated. It was his first defense of the Ring Magazine heavyweight title, the 5th of the International Boxing Federation World Heavyweight title, the 7th of the World Boxing Association World Heavyweight title, and the 8th of the World Boxing Council World Heavyweight title. With Bruno being another giant in the ring, hopes of taking the crown from Tyson were pinned on him. After the bell sounded, Tyson came out of his corner with such a level of violence that Bruno slipped during the first few seconds of the round.
Afraid, hanging on. Bruno's already tagged with a right hand. And there goes Bruno for the first time in the fight.
After the standard count of 8 and almost leaving the ring, the British giant was ready for what awaited him. Bruno tried to damage Tyson with headshots during the clinches, just before Richard Steele put some distance between them. The scenario was not the most favorable for the young champion, but this contest was just getting started.
Out by a shot by Frank Bruno. Tyson trying to fight back, and Bruno did catch him.
Tyson recovered from his tragic close during the second round. Blow after blow, he focused his offense on Bruno's body, a strategy that had already helped him weaken other giants in the past.
The right hand catches Bruno. Left hook. Bruno looks ready to go. Now is what he's going to hang.
Now it was Bruno who came from a complicated closing at the start of the third round. With Tyson in charge of the pace of the fight, tragic scenarios for Bruno began to unfold. Tyson had won the previous 3 rounds, and the 4th round looked just as good for him. Despite Bruno's clinches attempting to frustrate his ruthless attacks, he found a way to sneak his fists until they landed on the increasingly fragile body of the Englishman.
And look, Bruno was caught by a right hand and a left hook.
The fight seemed to project for more, but at the start of the 5th episode, the end was around the corner. Literally. Just 1 second of Bruno with his guard down was enough for Tyson to carry out a massacre in the ring. With an impeccable but lethal combination of blows, he left Bruno seeing stars.
A left hook, and Richard Steele.
It doesn't matter. This is vicious punishment. That's not shot. That's not that photo shot.
With Richard Steele as a witness and Bruno against the ropes, the end came. Mike Tyson defeated Frank Bruno by technical knockout at 2 minutes and 55 seconds of the 5th round. Fun fact, Mike Tyson ended Frank Bruno's career after his victory, but not in this fight. Want to know about their second encounter? That's history for another video. If you've made it this far, I thank you. I ask you not to leave without leaving your like on the video, reminding you that it's the best way to support my content. On my channel, you'll find more videos available to accompany you in your day-to-day life. Do you have some free time? Watch the next one right now. Now it's my turn to learn from your knowledge of the discipline. Do you know another fight where Mike Tyson had to face a boxing giant? Tell me about it in the comments.